Hello everyone and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and SmackDown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Both brands now are heating up to SummerSlam and everyone's paths are becoming a little more clear. Raw this week is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and 21 years to the day after winning his Olympic gold medal in Atlanta, Kurt Angle, the hometown boy, makes his way to the ring to start out the show, gets a big ovation, he lays out some exposition for the evening, he thanks the crowd, walks off, but then is interrupted by Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, who come out unannounced. In his promo, Heyman accuses Angle of conspiring against Lesnar by putting him in this fatal four-way match with these ridiculous odds in an attempt to get the title off of him. It plays up the idea that Lesnar as a champion is a bad thing for the Raw brand. The way Heyman was wording it, it's like you have board of directors to answer to, and he's implying that the board of directors and the higher-ups want him to make sure Lesnar is no longer the champion. But why would that be the case if not for the fact that Lesnar is in some way perceived as bad for Raw? I think that's kind of a mentality that's been played up by fans a lot. This is the first time they've really indirectly played up on that perception, in my opinion. Very interesting where they're going with that. And then the real big shocker here is that they announced that if Lesnar loses the title at SummerSlam, he will leave WWE, which makes you think, like, okay, it's telegraphing one of two things. It's either telegraphing that he will lose the belt and go and commit full time to his UFC return once his suspension is up, or it's telegraphing he's going to win and retain the belt and everything's going to be the same. So either way, it's kind of giving away something. We just don't know what yet. Our first match of the night is the Hardy Boys taking on Anderson and Gallows. The Revival are sitting on commentary. And all three teams have some kind of beef with each other. Primarily Revival and Hardys, but Anderson and Gallows have been kind of shoehorned into this thing as well over the last week or so. The Hardys win after Jeff hits a swanton to Luke Gallows, and then Booker T's channeling, I thought he was channeling his inner Lou Albano with shouting a bunch of numbers like 80% of the gross, 20% of the gate, and it's just Booker T's just spouting out random years, like he doesn't know what he's saying. And the line of the night's Corey Graves asking Booker T if he smells toast. The Hardys make their way up to the ramp, and then they and the Revival start brawling. Anderson and Gallows join them, and then Hardys give Dawson two consecutive twists of fate, one after the other. Then Jeff with poetry in motion onto Dash and Gallows, or Dash and Anderson on the outside. So big brawl here. I'm really curious and kind of excited about whatever three-way tag team match this is leading up to, probably at SummerSlam. I think all three of these teams have really good styles that would mesh well together. Backstage, Dean Ambrose is being interviewed, and then Seth Rollins shows up, and they both agree that, boy, last week sure felt good. It felt good to have those memories come back up to the surface from their old glory days of the Shield. And Seth Rollins says, hey, maybe we could do this again sometime. And Dean Ambrose says, I was burned before by you. Now I'm not sure I could ever love again. Okay, well, that last part I made up. Anyway, after the commercial break, semi-continuation of this, Seth Rollins is walking backstage, and Sheamus and Cesaro confront him and mock him for having no friends, and Seth makes a challenge to either of them for singles action, which Sheamus accepts. Well, we now know what happened to the purple color on the ropes during those Cruiserweight segments. Titus O'Neil stole them to make his new Titus Worldwide t-shirts. Hey, what's an episode of Raw without a pointless six-man Cruiserweight match? You've got Akira Tozawa, Rich Swann, and Cedric Alexander taking on TJP, Tony Nese, and Daivari. More of Titus trying to protect his investment by telling Akira to take it easy and not hurt his shoulder, and at one point before a break they're just shouting at each other for what feels like forever. There's arguing. Great high flying by the faces, I will say. The faces win after Akira hits the top rope senton onto TJP. Up next, The Miz TV with special guest Jason Jordan. As The Miz and The Miz Taraj are making their way down the ramp, Michael Cole says, oh, Curtis Axel celebrated 10 years with WWE today. I'm like, 10 years? I don't even have a joke for that. That's just amazing that Curtis Axel, of all people, has been there for 10 years. Yeah, it's amazing. Anyway, they introduce Jason Jordan, who comes out to new music, and that's going to take some time to grow into, honestly. I think that, once you get past the intro of the song, as it goes along, it sounds okay, it's palatable, but that intro, just all the farting trumpets, I don't like it. I don't dig it. That is not a good upgrade. It's a downgrade for Jason Jordan in the music department. Chad Gable won the American Alpha theme in their divorce, apparently. The Miz kind of runs down Jason here. He's saying, people are wondering where you've been getting all these opportunities since you come to Raw. Yeah, in the 2 weeks he's been there, he's had a singles match with Kurt Hawkins. Yeah, big boffo opportunities here on the Red brand. The Miz offers him a spot on the Miz Taraj, which Jordan denies twice, and the crowd is kind of mild about it. And the Miz starts tearing down Kurt Angle, his kayfabe father, and the city of Pittsburgh in general. And here's where Jordan, I think, starts to show signs of life. Because last week I complained about how his promo style sucked. It was just too mellow. Here he's showing a little bit more intensity. And it's just so, for lack of a better word, he seems to lack intensity in promos, which is, it's ironic because, he's Kurt's kayfabe stepson, and he has the three eyes. So he needs to adopt some more of that intensity, that part of the three eyes. But he showed some more backbone here. He said, if you talk about Kurt again, I'll beat you up. And the Miz goes to jump him, but he suplexes him, and he slides out of the ring. And so Jordan looks pretty strong here. The crowd didn't really care that much about it. They were kind of booing him a little bit. I think it was more the music they were booing for, in my opinion. Yeah, the music was the worst part about this thing for me. But I think Jordan is starting to show signs of life. If he shows more intensity in his promos, then I think we're on the right track. Seth Rollins taking on Sheamus in singles action. Cesaro is in Sheamus's corner. A really good match, very physical, one of my favorite matches of the night. Seth Rollins wins with a surprise roll-up, and right after that, the heels start beating up on Seth Rollins. There's a very loud, audible, "We want Ambrose" chant, so this angle they're working, it's working. The fans are totally buying into it, because then Ambrose does make the save to a huge pop, but he's immediately beaten down by Cesaro and Sheamus, so both of Rollins and Ambrose are laid out, and that's pretty much that. Now, I did last week, I erroneously said, I totally screwed up, because I remember watching Raw and seeing, Cesaro and Sheamus watching on the monitor that main event, but I totally slipped my mind, and so when I made my prediction, maybe in SummerSlam it'll be Seth and Dean and Miz in the three-way match for the Intercontinental title, totally forgot that that's the seeds they were planting. But after watching on Raw, I'm like, did they need to plant the seeds last week on Raw? I don't think that shot of Cesaro and Sheamus looking at the main event on the monitor was necessary at all, because it really was out of nowhere. So I think if it started this week with, Cesaro and Sheamus backstage mocking Seth for having no friends, that to me would have been a natural enough beginning. I don't think you had to plant that blatant seed the previous week on Raw. You didn't need that. You could have just had, like, where's this going to go from here, and then this new hurdle approaches. I think it was just a little too obvious, just a little too blatant, in my opinion. Be that as it may, it was a solid match between the two guys with a finish that I think helps everyone's characters. Time for some more Bray Wyatt derpy derp, where he talks about Finn Balor, and it's just, I'm not the first person to make this complaint about Bray Wyatt. He talks a lot of crap in his promos. It sounds the same every time. He gets beat up in the end, and he looks like a fool. I'm not the first person to say that, but I've just reached this point now where it's just not fun listening to Bray Wyatt promos anymore. It's boring. It's just so repetitive. He's like that shitty Undertaker ripoff you saw in every efed you were in growing up. That's his promo style to me. It's just white noise, no pun intended for Sheamus, but all these promos do, they just breed, a bunch of frustration among the fans and circular talking about what's wrong with Bray Wyatt this week. And it's frustrating, because this should be, by all counts, this has every right to be the most compelling character, or one of the most compelling characters on WWE across both brands. And they've ruined him. They just flat out ruined him. That's the best way I can describe it. And what do we see immediately after his promo? He's interrupted by Finn Balor. He teleports into the ring for some reason. He opens his back to Bray Wyatt. Bray takes the bait and gets laid out. And that's the end. It's a promo segment that he began, and he can't even win his own promo segment. I give up. Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and Braun Strowman in triple threat action. I was shocked this match took place as early on the show as it did. We didn't even get to the third hour at this point. It was like 15 minutes until the third hour when this match officially began. I was shocked, because if you're going to have a match this largely hyped before the third hour even begins, what do you do that last hour? Spoiler alert, not a whole lot, as we'll find out, but I'll get to that in a minute. The bulk of this match is fought on the outside, it feels like. At one point, Corey says on commentary, Samoa Joe knows what's at stake here in this match. What's at stake? I was just when I heard that, I'm like, what is at stake here? Because you're not winning for anything other than maybe pride or bragging rights. It's just kind of a position where all three guys, they really all need to win. No one can really afford a loss. I mean, if I was booking this show, I would be terrified of having to come up with a finish for this, because it's a catch-22. I think all three guys need a lot of momentum going into the match at SummerSlam. None of them can afford a loss, in my opinion. Ultimately, it was Roman who knocked Strowman out of the ring with steel steps, hit Joe with a spear, and won the match. And I get the story of Roman finally beating Joe, because Joe's had his number all this time, but I think it would have been more impactful on a pay-per-view, not necessarily for the title, but just on some pay-per-view match instead of here on Raw. It was a fine match, just a rough spot to be in if you're booking this thing, a real catch-22. Up next, Elias takes on Kalisto in singles action. That was one of the big stories this weekend. Was they took off Samson from Elias Samson. That was just Elias. It's just part of the rich tradition and history of the company. chopping up names from different wrestlers. You know, we've seen it since, you know, Carlito Cool. He was just Carlito after a while. Then you have Cesaro and Rusev and now Elias. And there's more examples to be had, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately. Sometimes it works out ultimately, or Big E Langston, he's Big E now. So there's plenty of examples. Sometimes it works out, you know, you get used to it. Elias, I don't know. It's going to take some time for me to get used to just Elias. So he beats Kalisto with the Drift Away as the name of his new finisher. And I must reiterate, Kalisto, ever since he lost the Lucha Dragons theme, has had the worst theme music on Raw. I mean, Jason Jordan's is amazing now compared to Kalisto's theme. Hey, didn't say Elias, he pretty much finishes his song and he goes over. It's a red letter day for him. Backstage, dreamy, shirtless Dean Ambrose is recovering in the locker room after the beatdown from Cesaro and Sheamus. Seth Rollins comes in and they talk some more about it. And Dean says, hey man, you're the architect. You planned this. You forced me to go out and save you. I didn't go out on my own. You tricked me into going out there. Okay, Dean, I get what you're going here. You know, you two are going to kiss and make up eventually. Bayley takes on Nia Jax once again in a match that seemed to be pretty much constructed by Alexa Bliss to get Nia Jax to do her bidding. At one point in the match, Nia does her hair up in a side ponytail to make fun of Bayley. That was awesome. Then she totally whiffs an elbow drop onto Bayley as she's like sitting up and she just totally misses it. That was not awesome. At one point in the match, Alexa Bliss distracts. Nia attacks Bayley. She goes for a running attack outside and Bayley gets out of the way, rolls into the ring, and she wins at the last second via countout. Which, you know, the crowd's mild about it, but there are worse ways to win if you're Bayley. So this is our main event. Big Cass taking on the Big Show. Enzo Amore comes out first to cut a promo, and the crowd is dead. This crowd is very tired. They are bored. Why is this the final segment of the night? Cass comes out again with new music, and this one again, I'm like, you know, it starts off bad and then it gets better as the song goes on. Here's the problem with this song as it is, because it's got the clank, clank, clank of the beginning, like the last new song, but then it goes into like the riff of the song without the drums, and the drums kick in. Like that makes the intro way longer than it should be. I think if you lose the opening clanks or you lose that opening riff before the drums kick in, then it'll be a better song and it'll flow better. You know, those who watch the show or like those who heard the song will hopefully know what I'm talking about when I'm saying all that. Anyway, the match goes on. Cass lays out Big Show with a big boot. Enzo jumps on Cass and the match ends in disqualification. So your last two matches in your final hour of Raw have wonky, kind of shitty finishes. Cass lays out Enzo, goes to attack the Big Show, gets punched out, and so Big Show picks up Enzo and he carries him off, and that's the end of the show. Why was this the main event? I don't know. Again, Cass looking okay here. He does get knocked out by the Big Show here, but he's looked very strong in the previous couple weeks. So again, can Cass just slough off Big Show and Enzo already and just do his own thing? Before we move on to SmackDown, I want you guys to know that this week's edition of Who Wore It Better is sponsored by Pro Wrestling Loot, the wrestling-themed monthly mystery box gimmick that comes to your door full of autographed pictures, action figures, t-shirts, and collectibles you won't find anywhere else. Now, you might have seen me do some unboxings for Pro Wrestling Loot in the past, and they've only gotten better since then. In case you're not getting these, here's a look at what you missed this past month. You can get stuff just like this delivered to your door for just $19.99 a month plus shipping. There are no commitments, you can cancel anytime. Save 10% off your first box by going to ProWrestlingLoot.com and using the promo code ZANE. Once again, that's ProWrestlingLoot.com. Save 10% with the code ZANE. SmackDown begins with the rematch for the U.S. Championship as AJ Styles defends against Kevin Owens. This was a great match, which was unfortunately punctuated with a couple of commercial breaks. 2 commercial breaks in this one match. Come on, guys. And this is a recurring theme, you know, throughout this show. The best matches you'll see on this show are hampered by commercial breaks. Not a good look, in my opinion. Anyway, but hey, that's the corporate model now. We can't seem to stop that at this point. Great spot, I will say, by AJ doing the phenomenal forearm from the inside to the outside onto Kevin Owens earlier in the match. Kevin Owens at the end goes to punch Styles. AJ ducks and KO hits the referee instead. He like hits him or he whiffs him, and then Mike Chioda sells it like death. Like, oh, I just got impaled in the eye. Like it was the angle that they got it on was like the one saving grace about it. But you could still tell that like Owens was nowhere near hitting Mike Chioda with that punch. So Owens goes for the pop-up powerbomb. AJ rolls him up, and Kevin's shoulders up the entire time. But the referee, because he's like semi-blinded, still counts a 3 anyway. Are we just gonna get every one-on-one match between these two guys having some kind of wonky ass finish, staged or otherwise? My first reaction after seeing this was it was a great match hampered by a really bad finish. That was kind of my initial gut feeling about it. But then when I saw what they did in the minutes afterward, I thought, okay, I understand now why they did this finish. It was part of a larger story, so, you know, I can accept what happened at the end of the match. Because what happens is backstage, Daniel Bryan and Shayna are consoling Mike Chioda, who's still excelling the eye. Kevin Owens comes in and is pissed. He's throwing things backstage. He shoves Mike Chioda into some boxes. So Shane grants him a rematch at SummerSlam for the U.S. title because he has a legitimate legitimate gripe because the referee made a bad call. And so then Kevin says he wants a competent referee, and Daniel Bryan says it'll be Shane doing it. And so, okay, so now we've got Shane McMahon as the guest referee for this match at SummerSlam. It's very interesting because I wonder where it's going to build, because, you know, you saw after WrestleMania when Shane and AJ had their match, they found this mutual respect for each other. So that was kind of like the beginning of AJ's face turn in a way. And so I don't know where this gripe with Kevin Owens and Shane comes from. There's been some subtle hints at it, I guess, in the previous weeks. So maybe this is a continuation of that. And, you know, I'm guessing at this point it's going to lead to some confrontation, like in a match capacity between Kevin and Shane, probably as early as Survivor Series, I would bet. That's the only reason I think Shane's in this match. The Usos cut a really good heel promo here. They steal the New Day's opening shtick off stage, then they do the Uso Rocks chant at the end, and just overall, the whole thing, the whole package was pretty impressive in my opinion. The Usos, I mean, their promos, in my opinion, are just killing it. Time now for Fashion Peaks. It's the Fashion Police's latest forays in the backstage stuff. Tyler Breeze is going in alone, trying to find out who kidnapped Fandango. Then he looks over and he sees Fandango with creepy lighting, and he's talking backwards or in tongues or something. Then he's joined by the Ascension, and Tyler Breeze is going, "Wait, we've ruled you out multiple times, what's going on?" And then like they're doing this bizarre stuff like putting syrup on a log and all this weird stuff, and Tyler Breeze goes, "No wonder the show got canceled the first time. No more metaphors, no more metaphors, it's all a dream." So Tyler Breeze wakes up and says, "I know who kidnapped Fandango." So once again we're caught in a cliffhanger. When will this madness finally resolve? Who really knows for sure? I will say this is a pretty entertaining segment overall. Some pretty funny zingers from Tyler Breeze, though I will admit I don't think I appreciate the parody as much as some, because I never watched the original Twin Peaks, nor have I seen the revival, so I really can't appreciate the humor that they employed here, as well as some might. Sami Zayn taking on Aiden English. It's a good week for the singers on the Raw and SmackDown brands this week, because, you know, you had Elias finishing his song on Monday, and here Aiden gets his entire song out before the match begins, so yeah, awesome. And hey, even better for Aiden, he wins out of nowhere with a surprise roll-up on Sami. That was kind of shocking, but like, where's this coming from? If he can do more good on TV, like winning more matches, we might be onto something. But after that match, Mike and Maria Kanellis come out and very briefly gloat at Sami Zayn. So the rivalry between those two and Sami, clearly not over yet. Women's tag team match, Natalya and Carmella taking on Becky Lynch and Naomi. Kind of a lateral move this match was, like leading into the build with Naomi and Natalya going over SummerSlam. The faces win after Naomi puts Carmella in her Slayo mission and Becky runs interference on Natalya. So yeah, it was a decent enough match, kind of short, but yeah, just you know, it's just one of those spinning the wheels for this rivalry as things go on. Chad Gable taking on Rusev in a really fun, entertaining match. I mean, I've always really appreciated Rusev's stuff, and since Chad's come into his own now in singles competition, I'm really liking his stuff as well. Chad hits Rusev throughout the match with like suplexes and a moonsault and an ankle lock. Are we sure Jason Jordan is the fake son of Kurt Angle? Ultimately, Rusev hits a kick out of nowhere, puts Chad in the accolade to win the match. He gets on the mic, says he has no opponent for SummerSlam because nobody can beat me, and then out walks Randy Orton, who makes a challenge to the pay-per-view. Rusev responds in Bulgarian, and he gets hit with an RKO. So I guess now we know where both of these guys are heading for SummerSlam, and much like the flag match with Cena, you know, my, prediction for Rusev not looking so bright at the moment. Main event time, John Cena versus Shinsuke Nakamura in the much ballyhooed dream match. The winner will face Jinder Mahal at SummerSlam for the championship. Of course, Jinder and the Singh brothers are chilling up in the skybox, watching from up above to see who's going to fight Jinder. I love the exchanges here between Cena and Shinsuke at the beginning, where Cena does the "you can't see me" pose, and Shinsuke reacts by like checking his eyes, like, oh, my eyes are a little blurry. And then he does some more exchanges, and Shinsuke does like the glasses with the eyes. Great stuff. I love Shinsuke's humor when he responds to like other wrestlers. Of course, the famous, catching AJ Styles' bullet and eating it, that from Japan. That was a great spot here. Kind of reminds me of that here. Great match. Both guys look really good here, taking each other's big moves. Shinsuke kicking out of the first attitude adjustment. Again, the one knock I had in this match is just the commercials. If you're going to have like a dream match and you're putting it on television, not pay-per-view, then would it kill you to just show some restraint and not have a commercial running through it? I feel like they should make special cases for like the big matches that you're telling people to come see because, hey, this match is pretty amazing, you gotta come see this. Like, entice people by like not putting commercials through it. Is that so much to ask? Anyway, Cena hits the second attitude adjustment. He goes for a third one and Shinsuke counters, and Cena takes a horrendous scary, frightening bump on like his top of his head from the reverse exploder. It's kind of amazing he didn't get paralyzed from that. I don't know if it's a thing where Shinsuke shouldn't have given him the move or Cena shouldn't have taken it. I think, you know, it's a vital part of Shinsuke's repertoire, and history shows he can hit that move on people, but I think Cena might have taken it wrong. I don't know. It was scary, and it's amazing Cena was able to get up and walk and do stuff after that, because then he gets hit with the Kinshasa, and Shinsuke beats Cena clean in the middle of the ring to go on to face Jinder at SummerSlam. That was amazing to me, because I think everyone kind of thought, oh, it's going to be that same old cliche booking where, you know, it ends in a schmoz or some double DQ and they both fight Jinder at SummerSlam. That's the format they've been doing. But no, like Shinsuke won fair and square against Cena. How often does that happen on television? And he's going to face Jinder. It's like, this, in my opinion, is obviously his biggest win since coming to the main roster, and I would argue his biggest win since just being signed, period. Bigger than his NXT title wins, in my opinion. So Shinsuke wins, and Cena and they shake hands, and you could tell there's some concern on Shinsuke's face after the match. I think you see him say, he said, "I'm sorry," after the match. So again, amazing Cena's alive, that he apparently could walk, and I saw him moving his fingers around. So hopefully Cena's okay, and Shinsuke goes on to fight Jinder at SummerSlam. It's amazing. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. And folks, this week there is no contest in my opinion. SmackDown easily wins for the week. I think the biggest thing Raw had going against it was, you know, the placement of the triple threat match, which in itself was a good thing. I will list the triple threat match itself as a pro, but its placement in the show as a con, because what you had instead, it sets up a tremendously weak third hour. The fact that you had Big Show and Big Cass the main event, that did not need to be the main event. That was ridiculous. That was the last thing you see on Raw, when you had this big monumental triple threat they were building up, and then just, you know, they put it there, just kind of give it away, you know, before the third hour begins. As far as SmackDown goes, I think, you know, my three favorite matches, you know, the U.S. title match was great. I liked Gable and Rusev. Shinsuke and Cena were all great. My one problem was they all had commercials running through them, and I know that's what they do now. And at least with SmackDown, they throw you a bone every once in a while by showing part of the match, like in the picture-in-picture as the commercial's going on. But it just takes you out of it. And the fact that you have like so many of these big matches, like the U.S. title match and Shinsuke and Cena, interrupted by commercials. Like, that defeats the whole purpose of these big, much hyped dream matches like Cena and Shinsuke. And hey, I'm even going to give a point to SmackDown for Aiden English winning the match. So good on them. SmackDown, in my opinion, right now is just a much more exciting show this week. It was stacked better than Raw and had better matches. You know, I've been given SmackDown a lot of flack over the last month or so, but I feel they're finally, like, now that we've kind of like kicked into high gear for SummerSlam, things are finally turning a corner again, and SmackDown seems to be going in the right direction. We'll see what happens in the weeks to come as we build the SummerSlam. So let me know what you guys thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and some bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.